Hello there. What is going on, everyone? Today I'm bringing to you my buyer's guide for what to buy first when on a budget for Star Wars Armada for the Empire. If you are a new player or you're looking to get started with the Imperial faction for Star Wars Armada, this is where you need to be. I'm going to be breaking down the purchases that you can get. Also, this is going to be heavily influenced by the most recent changes that we've had at the end of 2020 with the 1.5 rule set that came out along with the arrival of the Clone Wars into Star Wars Armada. I'm labeling this the 2021 buyer's guide, although technically I am still making this in December of 2020, but there's nothing new planned for the Empire at the beginning of 2021, and so I feel like this should be a good kind of benchmark for all of 2021 into 2022. But as this list changes, as new things happen that change kind of what maybe the ranking should be, I will be updating this video about every year or two. And again, if you've maybe seen one of my older videos, this should kind of supersede that because a lot has changed with this game. And we're going to kind of talk about why I kind of rank my decisions. Now, first and foremost, this is just my opinion, and it's only from a certain perspective of kind of value and budget. It's not a definitive guide, and it's definitely not the gospel or anything like that. So if I really want to preface this with, the game is supposed to be fun. So if there's something that you really have your heart set on, you should totally get that. If there's something that you wanted to play this game because you want a Star Destroyer, you should totally get a Star Destroyer first, right? Like, you should totally do that. If you want this ship or that ship, and I kind of rank it low, and you kind of rank it higher, then absolutely do that, because I think fun factor should be your priority number one. However, budget is often priority number one. And so a lot of things are going to kind of depend on, getting you up to that 400 point format so you can play full games. That's definitely one of the things to consider. And another part is kind of the cool factor and then the budget factor. Now, I'm going to be talking about all of these things. I'm going to rank everything down. And of course, if you agree or disagree, make sure you let me know down in the comment section. Also going to be announcing a giveaway winner at the end of the video. So there's definitely that. If you're interested in winning any of my giveaways, you just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to start things off with the core set, which you do see here. This is kind of a tough one because if you're on a budget, maybe the Empire isn't the best faction to play, but I'm assuming that you've kind of looked at the game a little bit. You're aware that there is Empire, Rebels. There's also now Clone Wars factions. You have the Separatists and the Republic, and those as individual factions. Those Clone Wars factions have dedicated starters just for that faction that actually have 3 ships, as opposed to the Empire here, which only has 1. So this one is a little bit tougher to buy into if you're only looking at playing the Empire. However, if you're looking to just kind of dip your feet into Armada, this is a really good starting point, because this gives you like a sample game. A very smaller sample game that's just kind of a sample of how the game is going to work. This is something you can play on your kitchen table with a family member and kind of get a rough idea of how Armada is played. Now, I do want to point out, though, if you do pick up this core set and read over the rules, that's going to give you a good rundown on how to play. But there's now updated rules now on fantasyflight.com, and eventually it will probably be on Atomic Mass Games on their website, because they're taking over the future of Armada. But basically, there's a newer rule set now that's reflected with the Clone Wars starters that have come out, and a few things have changed, but I'm going to have more videos. If you're interested in learning more about how to play Armada and some of the newer rules and all of that, be sure to click that subscribe button. Check out some of the more videos that I have. I'm going to put more links to those as well. However, at least for learning the basics of Armada, the rulebook that comes in here is at least going to get you a pretty good idea of how to play, and it's a good starting point. Now, moving past this, there's going to be lots of different ships. In my previous videos, I used to actually rank ships heavily weighted according to the different upgrades that came with them. That's not as much of an important thing anymore, and we'll talk about why. But one of the first things that actually a lot of people need beyond a single core set and is more dice. So I'm gonna throw a dice pack on here. It's something you might want to consider, or alternative to this, consider getting the dice app if you have a smartphone and you don't mind using a phone to digitally roll dice, it's a very good saver. And it works with lots of different Fantasy Flight games. It works with a lot of different Star Wars games. It's going to save you some money, and definitely consider that. But an extra dice pack is like $9. Maybe you get it even cheaper than that. Normally, I don't suggest dice packs for a lot of games because most games I actually suggest getting multiple starters. This is a case where I don't suggest getting multiple starters. While the starter does have everything you need to play, it has the bare minimum of dice. And while it's nice to have some of the extra components of like extra movement tools and things like that, they're really not that important. Not that crucial. Not for $100 like the starter is. The starter is a little expensive, and you kind of have to have it. It's not, everything that comes in the starter is not available individually elsewhere. So it's not really the greatest thing in the world to do. So getting another dice pack is something to consider. It's not crucial because you can always record results on a sheet of paper because, this is the same amount of dice that the game comes with in the core set. A lot of times you'll need more than 3 red dice. A lot of times you'll need more than 3 black dice. And, having at least 2 sets of dice is pretty good. Now, if your opponent also has some dice, you might be able to borrow theirs for a roll or just record results and then roll again. You can totally make do with what you've got, but consider this, and then maybe even consider the Dice app. This is not totally clutch, but it's so cheap I've wanted to kind of include it close to the top of the list. Now, once you get through the core set, once you've kind of played a little bit of a starter game, and you're looking to expand your fleet a little bit, I definitely suggest the Chimera expansion. This is an expensive expansion. This is like a $50 expansion. So why do I have this as maybe the first thing to buy? A couple of reasons, and you need to consider now $50 is too much for your budget for your next ship. You can skip this one and go on to one of the cheaper ones. But I wanted to put this one at the top of the list for a number of reasons. First off, the rule of cool kind of dictates a lot of this ship's placement on here. It's an Imperial Star Destroyer. It's the most recognizable capital ship in all of science fiction, especially Star Wars. But I would argue all of science fiction. I mean, maybe the Enterprise from Star Trek, but maybe Star Trek has a little bit of recognizability. But no, the Imperial Star Destroyer is incredibly iconic, and this is the thing that, honestly, this is the ship that pulled me into the game, right? And what this is actually a repaint of the first Imperial Star Destroyer model that has Thrawn's Chimera on here. Now, if you don't like Grand Admiral Thrawn specifically, or the Chimera means nothing to you, I can understand. Maybe this isn't the first thing you're interested in. It's still a Star Destroyer. Some people will still repaint it. I had bought 2 of these and repainted one of them because I didn't need to with that particular paint job on there. But it's a beautiful paint job that comes on this ship. And on top of it being a beautiful ship, it comes with a lot of really cool cards. It's going to come with, at least 2 cards in this particular set that you actually aren't going to be able to use in tournaments because they're currently on hold. There's only 3 cards in the game that are on hold right now, and 2 of them come in this particular pack. Everything else that comes in here is going to help you, especially because this is the only ship that also comes with squadrons. This is going to come with some gauntlet fighters. It comes with Mandalorians that actually come in here bundled with it. And squadrons is even more stuff that you can add to your fleet. Like the core set is going to come with a couple of TIE fighters, and now you'll have some pretty cool Mandalorians that can fly alongside your TIE fighters. So you're actually getting 2 things in this pack. It's also the only place you can get those Mandalorians. Also, this is giving you really, really nice different cardboard options for the Star Destroyer. And I think this is out of the 2 versions of the Imperial Star Destroyer that exist. I think this is the superior version. The Simoon refit is personally my favorite. And I think it's the better version of the 2 Star Destroyers. So if you were going to get one Imperial Star Destroyer, this is the one to get. Not only because it's, I think, a better Star Destroyer, but also comes with 2 squadrons, 2 Mandalorian gauntlet fighters, Gar Saxon and a generic Mandalorian, which the other Star Destroyer doesn't come with. And it's the same price as this one. So you're getting way more in this pack. So I definitely put this one at the top when you're looking to buy more ships. Moving on, the upgrade card collection. Now, if you're not interested, or if you don't want to jump into the $50 for the previous ship, the upgrade card collection is like $20. This is just cards, though. You're not actually getting another ship here. That's kind of why I didn't put this one first also. But let me not, just because it's not first, don't even think for a second that like the value on this is not there. This is the greatest value of any purchase you'll ever make in Star Wars Armada, because with the arrival of the Clone Wars, they put every single card for not just the Empire, but also the Rebels, into this upgrade card collection. And multiple versions of almost every card that you can use multiples of. This is going to give you all of the upgrades. This is going to give you all of the commanders, all of the upgrade cards to outfit your fleet, allowing you to really fill out all those upgrade slots on the Victory class Star Destroyer you've already got, and maybe the Imperial Star Destroyer that you just picked up if you just picked up a Chimera. And any other ships that you do pick up. This has so many cards in it, it's staggering, and it's going to completely fill up your collection. You're going to have all the upgrade cards you're ever going to need. As a matter of fact, you could probably take all those upgrade cards that came in, and we're talking like the little small cards. You can probably take all those and throw them in a shoebox somewhere, because these are also errated and points adjusted. So there were a couple of corrections that were made with the 1.5 rule set that came out for Star Wars Armada. Basically, it was a major rules change that came out in December of 2020. And all of those changes are reflected on these cards. So these are like the definitive cards to use. Plus, you're getting lots of extras. There's certain cards that were hard to find. You're getting like 2 of almost all of those in here. Just a great value. After that, maybe you want to expand your squadrons a little bit. There are a couple of different squadron packs. I'm going to recommend the Imperial Fighter Squadrons 2 expansion pack right away. This one has really cool squadrons in there, and notably, it has the TIE Defender, which is arguably one of the best squadrons in the game, especially Marek Steel in the TIE Defender, combined with the Lambda, does really good things. It's very effective, it's very fun, and they take up a little more points to help you fill up to that 400-point fleet a little bit easier. I mean, if you've got a Star Destroyer, the upgrade card pack, I mean, and then your Victory Star Destroyer from the core set, you toss this in there, plus those Gauntlet Fighters, you've got a lot of build options at this point. Of course, they're all going to involve, a Victory Star Destroyer and an Imperial Star Destroyer, but you have a lot of options for upgrades, a lot of options for squadrons, and can be effective. But this is a really good starting point, and it's going to give you two squadrons of each of the different types. You get that Decimator, you get the Phantoms, you get the Lambdas, and the TIE Defenders. All new stuff. It'll be all new stuff to you. Very cool. After that, I'm going to definitely suggest the Imperial Assault Carriers. You probably know these as the Gazantes. This is a flotilla. It's going to have some special rules in that, a flotilla can't be your flagship. It's just a support type of ship. It's on a small base. It's got 2 ships that both fly on the same base, but it's a really good support ship. And it's very effective at fleet support, such that it fits into every type of fleet. You can use these, and so any type of list building that you're ever going to do, this is really going to help. Plus, with those squadrons, these guys also make for excellent squadron commands. They make for excellent carriers to support your squadron game a little bit more, and also hand out support, an extra engineering commands maybe, or extra navigational commands to the rest of your fleet. Just really great support ship here. Not as flashy, but definitely become more recognizable lately, especially in The Mandalorian. We've gotten to see more Imperial Assault Carriers, otherwise known as the Gazanti. So great flotilla, great support ship. Next, a ship that is becoming more and more popular these days and has always been one of my favorite ships, maybe my favorite ship in all of Star Wars, the Imperial Light Cruiser, otherwise known as the Architon's Cruiser. I absolutely love these ships. I own 5 of them personally. It's the most fun ship for me to fly, or one of the most fun ships for me to fly, and it has long been a favorite of mine. It's one of the cheaper expansions to pick up, but it's a very effective ship, and also they tend to sometimes be hard to find. I think I may have had a little bit to do with that by emphasizing lists of 4 or 5 and even 6 Architons for a while, and so instead of buying 1 or 2, some people tended to buy way more than that. and they tended to sell out a little bit. But it's a very good ship. It also came with really good upgrade cards when it first came out, and that made it hard to find. Fortunately, that's not as much of an issue anymore. You can get all the upgrades in the upgrade card pack, but I still think this ship has a lot of merit on its own. It's an Imperial broadside ship, so it kind of wants to fly around the outskirts of the battle, doesn't really want to charge directly into the battle too much, but a very good ship that kind of fits into a lot of builds also. If you want to pick up multiples of these, they can work really well together, kind of flying in a chain, kind of something I call the conga line. I'm a big fan of this ship. Next up, still on the cheaper side, but a little more expensive. I think these are about $30. The Gladiator Star Destroyer. This one comes in the box as opposed to the blister pack, because it's a little bit bigger of a ship, but it's still considered a small ship. Which now, in retrospect, we kind of look back at this one and like, this one probably should have been a medium. It probably should have been. However, I think at the time, this was I think in the first wave of the game, when the game was still very, very new. I think they wanted to give the Empire a small ship, and so they just decided, you know what, we'll make this one small. But for a lot, it feels a lot more like a medium-sized ship. But the Gladiator is great. Most people only ever run one of them because of the Demolisher title that you can put on the Gladiator. This is the only ship in the game that is able to attack after it moves. The Demolisher title has been changed a little bit. That update is reflected in the upgrade card pack, which we saw earlier. As are all of the changes with 1.5, but it's still mostly the same. Still, I mean, there's minor differences. It still allows you to shoot after you move. As a matter of fact, you kind of have to more than ever now. But it's just a really fun ship to run. It does fit into a lot of different builds as well, and sometimes it's the centerpiece of a build. It's capable of dealing amazing amounts of damage and kind of being fairly safe because it's a small ship that happens to have brace, which allows it to survive a little bit longer. Pretty cool ship, a little bit more expensive than some of the other small ships, but every Imperial player needs to have at least one of these in their fleet before too long, so you'll definitely have a good time with this ship. Next up, a cheaper ship, the Imperial Raider. This one kind of comes on the tail end of the small ships, in my opinion, because of the fact that it's a little bit less versatile, I think, as far as fleet design than the ships that we've seen before. This one is a little bit more fragile and a little bit more singularly focused in that it wants to usually get in very, very close. I mean, it has two kind of roles, and that is also not bad to be an Imperial ship that's designed to go after enemy squadrons. But it also wants to go after enemy ships. But either one of those strategies involves it getting very much up close and personal against enemy forces. And it being a relatively smaller ship and more easily destroyed, it tends to not last as long. So out of all of the small ships, and I believe this one, much like the Gozantes and the Architans, are in the $20 price range. Sometimes you can find them cheaper if they're on sale. It kind of is my last choice for the smaller ships, because I feel like this is maybe a little bit more niche, and also a little bit better suited to more of an experienced player, because it does require a little bit more of a determined play style to implement it effectively. Still a cool ship, and then again, if you played Star Wars Battlefront 2, and you really liked the Raider from that, and you wanted to play this game because of that ship, then absolutely, if this is going to increase your fun factor more so than the other ships, then you should absolutely get this one sooner. But I just think as far as a game perspective and the game mechanics of it, it's going to be a little more squishy. Now, one of the big rules changes was that evade is a little bit better now, which does kind of help this ship more so than it used to. So it has a little more survivability than it used to, but all those other ships also happen to have evade as well, or the other small ships. Moving on, we're going to get into slightly more expensive ships now. The Imperial Light Carrier, or as known as the Quasar Fire. This thing is not quite as recognizable as some of the other slightly larger ships. This one is a medium-based ship, which is still fairly big, but it does make for an excellent carrier. It's not the tankiest ship out there. It only has 2 defense tokens. It can be killed, fairly easily. But it's one of those ships that he wants to be protected, And if you protect it, it can really command your TIE fighters and your squadron presence exceptionally well. And it's probably the best carrier in the game because it's a dedicated, pure carrier. This really does not have very strong anti-ship armament. It doesn't really have a whole lot of strengths anywhere. And its build outside of its ability to really dominate that TIE fighter support type of role. So it's really a really good carrier. And if you're a fan of Star Wars Rebels, you're definitely going to recognize this ship. It's also shown up in some video games too, like Star Wars Squadrons. Next up, we're talking about, if you're picking up a Quasar, you may want to increase your squadron presence a little bit. Now, you've already got some squadrons, and while some people would say get squadrons right away, I kind of did that with some of the other packs already. So I'm thinking, hey, you've already picked up a Chimera, you've got a couple more there. You picked up your Imperial Fighters 2 already, you got some more squadrons there. Maybe now it's time to start with the original Squadron pack, which was the Imperial Fighter Squadrons 1 pack. Now, the reason why this one's a little bit lower, and I placed it here alongside the Quasar because this one works well with the Quasar. And certain builds that want to include a Quasar to activate a lot of squadrons works well with TIE fighters and even TIE interceptors or bombers too. TIE bombers. You're gonna get the 4 most common Imperial types of fighters here. You're getting TIE fighters, TIE interceptors, TIE bombers, and the TIE Advanced X1, which is gonna be a nice little escort to protect your other fighters. It's going to work well with all of that, I guess the thing that kind of puts this one down is that you've already got quite a few TIE fighters. You've already got 4 in the core set, so you weren't getting as much new stuff here as you were in like the Imperial Fighters 2 Squadron pack. So I ranked that one higher. But by this point, you definitely want to pick up this pack because there's also going to be some unique named fighters in here, and there's just a lot of really important stuff to get in this pack, and it's a good pack to have. I just didn't think it needed to be one of your first purchases, so I kind of have this one in the middle. Next up, if you're expanding your squadron presence, the Rogues and Villains expansion pack is another option. But definitely, like we're in the later half at this point, definitely get this one maybe as your final and last squadron pack if you're really upgrading your squadrons for 2 reasons. The first reason is that this is a mixed faction pack. That means that you're only getting 4 squadrons in here that are for the Empire and 4 squadrons that are for the Rebels. Now, while you normally get 4 in any other squadron pack, you're usually getting 2 copies of each of them, so 8 total, which is 4 different types. Here, you're only getting 1 of each. So you're going to get like Boba Fett, and you're going to get Dengar and IG-88. You're going to get these bounty hunters, and like, hey, man, that's really cool. But you're only getting 1 copy of the ship of each of them. While you have different cards, enough cards to run 2 different versions, you're not going to get like multiple fire sprays in this pack. Now, there's a caveat that I have on here is that if you are playing multiple factions, if you are building fleets for both the Rebels and the Empire, well, then this one goes up significantly in the list. This might be one of the first purchases you buy if you're looking to build them both, because of the fact that this is one expansion that's giving you cool stuff for 2 different factions, and that is very, very cool. But if you're a single faction player only, the value for this one kind of gets cut in half. Now, while it only is a $20 expansion, and that's cool, the other reason that this one is a little bit lower is that one of the crucial things that this would bring to the Rebels and the Empire for the first couple of years of the game's life was the keyword of intel, which used to kind of like you would have like Dengar fly in with intel or Jan Ors fly in with intel for the Rebels, kind of and basically allow all the rest of your fighters to ignore all the enemy fighters and then continue to bomb the opponent's capital ships or what have you. Well, that keyword has been changed significantly, and while intel is still valuable by giving grit instead of heavy to enemy squadrons, it gives now grit to friendly squadrons, it's not as good as it was. And so now it's not a mandatory, it's not an auto include anymore. Basically, there was a card in here or a ship in here for each, or I should say a fighter squadron in here for each faction that was a must-have. And now it's been kind of downgraded to an option. And again, it's not a bad option, it's just not a must-have anymore, right? So I put this one a little bit farther down for those 2 reasons. Moving on, the Interdictor. Now, this one might be one of your first purchases because it's iconic. Everybody really was excited when they announced the Interdictor for the Empire because look, this was an important ship from Legends, and then when Star Wars Rebels kind of recanonized it, everybody went like, "Oh my gosh, the Interdictor's back!" I remember being like a really exciting moment, and it's a pretty cool ship. It's a different type of support ship for the Empire. This is a medium ship, even though it looks like a Star Destroyer. It's not as big as a Star Destroyer, so it falls into the medium ship category. Great support for this ship. It can be built a number of different ways, and you're going to get some great upgrades with it. But again, the upgrades aren't really an issue. You've already got the upgrade card pack, but there are special experimental type of upgrades that only can go on this ship. So if you've already got the upgrade card pack, you're probably looking at these gravity wells and stuff like, oh, what are these? Well, this is the ship that you can use them on. So it's a really cool ship. It can do some interesting stuff like moving obstacles around the board, and it very much plays into the objective aspect of the game, and that's very fun. So a little bit lower on the list. Again, of course, if this is a ship you're really looking forward to flying, then get it sooner by all means. But you're going to spend a little more for the bigger ships. The bigger the ship is, the more expensive they tend to cost. The other thing about the Interdictor is that it's not as much of an anti-ship ship. All right, so it doesn't have that much firepower. It can be outfitted certain ways, but then it starts to get really expensive and take up a lot more of your fleet, leaving less room for other ships. But I love the ship. I enjoy it a lot. It's just not one of my all-the-time ships. Next up, we're getting expensive now. The Onager. This is part of Armada's Wave 8. This is a great ship. Just because I'm putting this kind of low on the list doesn't mean that this isn't a great ship. This is a fantastic ship. I was going to say phenomenal, and I kind of switched to fantastic, so it was like fin-tastic. So it's a fin-tastic ship. No, it's a fantastic ship. It's a very, very, very good ship. I have this lower on the list for two reasons. One, it's a little bit more advanced in the way that you use it. It has this ignition arc that might confuse some new players because it allows you to break some core rules of the game, like firing beyond long range. And so you have to you measuring your stick from twice as far as you would before. And so that's kind of a new aspect to the game. It also comes with the salvo tokens, which were kind of new with Wave 8, that are more indicative of, the 1.5 Armada, the post-Clone Wars. I'm going to call it the 2021 and beyond Armada, that this was kind of like a preview of how the game will be played beyond that. But that's not the only reason. The other reason is this is the most expensive large ship that the Empire has. It's not cheap, and if you're on a budget, that's one of the things we have to consider. This is just a smaller ship than the Imperial Star Destroyer, but it costs more than the Imperial Star Destroyer. So, I'd say get the Imperial Star Destroyer first. But this is a very effective ship. It's kind of a sniper ship. You park it in the back, and it can shoot extremely long range with this super weapon that it's got, and that's cool. That's really cool. But you're also paying a lot of physical dollars. You're paying a lot of real world money for this expansion. So I have it lower on the list only for that real purpose, and I guess partially because it's a slightly advanced ship. But make no mistake, if you happen to get one, you're going to enjoy it. It's awesome. It's an awesome ship. Now we're kind of at the tail end. I have the original Imperial class Star Destroyer expansion pack. This one is lower on the list, because you've already got an Imperial class Star Destroyer. Now this is a separate expansion. It did come with different upgrade cards. All of the upgrade cards it comes with, it doesn't matter because you've already got the upgrade card collection, so you're not going to need those particular upgrade cards. It does come with the actual original ship cards for the Imperial 1 class and the Imperial 2 class, that is giving you something slightly different. However, like I said before, I believe the Simoon and the Kuat are kind of superior versions of the Imperial Star Destroyer, so you're not getting as much new stuff here. A plus to this, though, is that while you're not getting those two squadrons that the Chimera has, and this is the same price as that, you are getting the original Imperial Star Destroyer. So if you don't want, if you wanted multiple Star Destroyers, and that's totally valid because you can fit up to 3 in a standard build, but but not most people don't. It was very common for a long time for people to run 2 Star Destroyers, though. That's a very reasonable and often seen type of build. So it stands to reason you may want a second Imperial Star Destroyer. But even though you're not getting 2 squadrons here, you are getting a classic paint job. And so if you're not somebody who's interested in repaints, that's something to consider, because you might want at least one that kind of just looks more authentic. And then again, some people just will buy this to have it on their shelf because, hey, it's a beautifully sculpted, beautifully painted, beautiful Imperial Star Destroyer. And so, but since, you probably already have one, because if you were going to get one of these, I'd definitely get the Chimera first. That's why this one's so far down on the list. Next up, look, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. It's amazing. The Super Star Destroyer. The only, and I mean only reason that this one is so far down is because this is a budget-based list. The rule of cool is enough to make this possibly your first purchase. Like if you've got $200, it's a $200 ship. I mean, it's the most expensive miniature I've ever seen. Well, at least out of Fantasy Flight. But yeah, it's a very, very big ship. It's huge, and it's awesome. It's super, and it's actually a very effective ship. This one comes with 4 different versions of how you can play it. 2 of which you can run in the standard 400-point game. The other 2 are for games that go beyond 400 points, and so which you can totally do. It's absolutely beautiful. It's breathtaking. I love this ship. I absolutely love it. Like I talked about the Architons, and I love the Architons. This one rivals that love. It's absolutely beautiful. If you ever have a chance to get one of these and you can afford it, definitely do that. But this is a budget list, and $200 for one ship, I have a hard time justifying that on a budget list. So I had to put this one down there. It's so expensive. Absolutely beautiful. And it's definitely going to be a collector's item for whatever. You will never throw this away. You will keep this. I mean, like I will be buried with mine, But yeah, it's a beautiful ship. You're going to love it. Next up, I've got the campaigns, right? We've got 2 of them. We've got the Corellian Conflict and Rebellion in the Rim. They're very optional, and this is something that you will have to make the decision for yourself on where you kind of fit this in to your budget. They're mid-level price, and when they first came out, I ranked them a lot higher because they came with a lot of different things. Like I would probably say Corellian Conflict first, and then Rebellion in the Rim second. But what they are is they're campaign expansions. You can run, if you've got a group of people that are going to meet regularly and wants to build fleets that persist from one session to the next session, they grow and you lose a ship and it's gone, but now you get upgrades for this ship and you all that stuff. They're fun to play if you've got a group of people that can consistently meet and actually make that happen. But that's an optional way to play, and you might not be interested in that. But the other thing that they come with is they come with a little bit of extra flavor for your existing games, even if you're not playing the campaign. For example, both of these come with new squadron cards. Not new plastic, but just new ways to play the plastic you've already got. And that's pretty cool. That is very cool. They also come with some new objectives, and the objectives are also really cool. But what kind of puts them down, and definitely what puts Rebellion in the Rim down a little bit lower, is that Rebellion in the Rim also came with new upgrade cards, new titles and things like that. And all of those new upgrades you already get in the upgrade card collection. So like you really don't need these as much if you're a newer player. But that totally depends on like a lot of how you want to play, how and when and where you want to play. If you want to play more competitively, then you're definitely going to want to get these cards. The squadron options are pretty cool, but also you're getting something else that's pretty cool, and then you're getting new objective cards. And the new objective cards really kind of open up new ways to play the game, and that's really great. I like that quite a bit. And those also really expand the game too. Like once you've played the core set and you've played those core set objectives enough times, they will eventually start to become stale. And the new objectives that come in both of these packs really open up new avenues for the game and new strategies for you to approach. So, you're getting a little bit more, but you're not getting any ships or any plastic in either of these expansions. So if you're interested in the campaign, then that raises these up a little bit more. But if you're more interested in adding more ships and squadrons and more plastic to your fleet, you're not getting any of that in these expansions. So this is kind of a variable purchase, and I'll kind of leave you to decide for yourself on how important campaigns are for you. But the new squadron options are actually pretty cool that you're going to get in these. And I'll point out that the Corellian Conflict happens to have some squadron cards that don't use, they're unique squadrons that don't use defense tokens. And that's especially cool right now because one of the new changes is that you have a maximum of 4 unique squadrons that happen to have defense tokens. So this kind of gives you additional ace power without counting against that 4 ace limit. So that's pretty cool. All right. And then like we're at the bottom of the barrel now. The Victory Star Destroyer. I've got to rank this one kind of last. It used to be a little bit higher. It definitely did. It used to be higher. This one has probably dropped lower than any other expansion in the game. And I say only buy this one if you like the Victory Star Destroyer and you want to run more than one of them, which I don't know that many people that often want to do that. It's not a cheap expansion because it's a sizable ship. It's still a medium ship, but it's one of the larger medium ships. And the other reason to buy this one was always because it came with certain upgrade cards that were important. It came with a commander, and it came with some upgrade cards that were like only available in this for a little bit, like flight controllers and stuff. That value started to go down when they started putting some of those upgrades in other expansions. But now that you have the upgrade card collection, you get everything in here. You don't need a thing from this particular, unless of course you want to run multiple Victory Star Destroyers. And since you've already got one, there's nothing, and this is identical, like the model and the paint job and all that stuff. It's identical to the one you've already got. And the Victory's often seen as not that good of a ship to begin with. It's certainly not as good as the Imperial Star Destroyer, not as iconic as the Imperial Star Destroyer. So I don't think that many people are going to want a whole lot of Victory Star Destroyers. But then again, if you really like the Victory Star Destroyer, then maybe you should get it much sooner. This is only my opinion. All right, guys, that is my list. Let me know what you guys think of this list, and if this was helpful in steering some of your decisions. I would love to hear from you guys. Let me know down in the comments section. Don't forget to click that subscribe button. That's how you enter to win my giveaways, by being a subscriber and leaving a comment on this or one of my videos. Also, speaking of giveaways, since it is December of 2020 and I'm doing 12 Days of Life Day, today's giveaway winner, and I'm doing 12 giveaways. I usually run like 1 or 2 a month or so. I run them all the time, but this month I'm running 12 giveaways. Today's giveaway is going to win 2 promos: the Nebulon B promo from the early days of Armada, and the GR75. These are both Rebel. I recognize the irony that I'm doing Rebel promos in an Imperial video. Don't worry, this is a prelude, because the Rebel What to Buy First will also be coming out. But yeah, these are both going to go to one lucky subscriber, and that's going to be Garrett Solzman. Congratulations, Garrett. You just won yourself 2 promos. That all you have to do is shoot me an email on the back end of my channel. I'll get your information. We'll get these mailed out to you. And I wish you a happy Life Day. For the rest of you, make sure if you didn't win this one, you got plenty more chances to win. So don't worry about that. If you guys are still looking for some last-minute holiday shopping, check the links in the description below. You can get shirts like this. We got shirts, masks, socks, all kinds of cool stuff. Gator necks, you name it. We got all kinds of really cool merch down in the description below that do help support the channel. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons as well. You guys are absolutely amazing. You guys help make this channel possible. We couldn't do it without you, so thank you for your continued support. If you're interested in Patreon or my Discord or my website or any of the other links that you can get all kinds of great information, check the description below. I want to thank you so much, and as always, have a great day.